Hi everyone, good morning. Thank you for joining us today. I hope everyone's doing all right, and I hope everyone had their breakfast already. So to start, I'm Alia. I'm from Developer Student Club, University Technology Petronas, and today I'll host a talk called Being a Freelance Developer for 5 years, and it will be presented by Mr. Raeveen. So before we start the talk, I want to talk a bit about what is DSC for those who are interested or for those who are new here. So basically, Developer Student Club are university-based community groups for students who are interested in Google developer technologies or to learn more about the latest technologies. So students from all around the world, different backgrounds, different courses are encouraged to join, to those who want to improve or to learn new skills related to tech. So by joining the SC, students will get the chance to network with people all around, build solutions for local businesses and their communities, and to improve their knowledge by joining training, seminars, and talks such as this. So I hope everyone are interested in joining the SC. I will show a video before we start.
Developer student clubs train thousands of student developers globally and work with their communities to solve real-life problems. Google selects amazing students from across the globe once a year to be a developer student club lead and start a club on their campus. These leads believe knowledge is power and that technology can do extraordinary things for the world. They take on the responsibility to help students learn and empower these students to solve real problems around them. Join us in building a global community for students.
So I hope through that video it will inspire or encourage you guys to join DSC. So today I'll be basically inviting Mr. Raven to join us. Hi, this is Mr. Raven. So
Hello, everyone.
hi. Before we start, I wanna introduce who's Mr. Raven. So Raven's currently a web application developer at Asia Pacific University and Innovation APU or API IT Education Group, and he's also a CEO at RTG Networks Berhad. And before this, he's actually the president for the APU Student Developer Society for almost a year. He had collaborated with different companies for the benefit of the society. He's also a freelance full stack developer with more than 5 year experience, specifically on building a fully fledged CMS and LMS in different projects. Other than that, he had multiple experiences in admin dashboard professional in integrated payment APIs, Amazon AWS, Lateral Framework, Ionic Framework, and Flutter. So as you can see, he has a lot of experience on being a developer. So today he'll talk about his journeys, challenges, how he overcome these challenges, and he'll give you guys a lot of tips on how to start for those who want to become a freelance developer. So without further ado, I'll basically pass on the floor to Mr. Raven.
All right. Hello, everyone from YouTube and also Facebook. So my name is, as you guys know, Raeveen Pasupathy. So I've been having this freelance thing for 5 years, and also I'm currently being a web application developer at Asia Pacific University. And yeah, I do also run a company. Okay. So let's go for the company part later in a bit. So let's start with our main objective here. Okay. So as a freelance developer, you have to know a lot of things. A lot of things, as I mean, is that your web stack, or your tech stack that you want to go for in the future. Everyone can be a developer at any case or any point in life, but then you have to know that each and every point in your life, which starts from something else. Okay, let's say as a website developer or a web application developer, you start from a language called HTML. Although some says HTML or CSS is not it's not a proper language. Okay, so that's the case here. So you have to start from somewhere. When you start from HTML or being a website developer, even you can talk about Python if you are API or backend, or even going under the DevOps umbrella. Okay, so if you look at that, there are a lot of different changes, and every single day or every single year there are new additions or there are new. We can say that we have a lot of different things that we want to fix. Okay, the first thing in this criteria, the first thing in this line is mostly about starting up properly and also ending up properly. All right, as you think, right, as you go for university, when you start something, right, I mean for local students, right after SPM you go for foundation or even go for diploma. That is like a basic fundamentals of your life or even during your whole study period. So you need all that in mind. Only then you can go into degree. All right. So that's actually a ticket in order to go to a different platform or even start up with something. Okay. So the first thing you have to do is when you start as a freelance developer, you have to, as I said, you need to know tech stacks. The first one is you have to go for HTML itself. Okay, HTML has a lot of elements in it. Okay, one of the most fine elements is making a website. As you know, right, starting up a website needs HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and all these tech stacks. Okay, but why are there some people using Angular? Why are there some people using Vue.js, or why are they using React.js? Have you ever thought about this? Have you had this question in mind that why are people using different tech frameworks when you have something in mind already or something that is already developed and being used for past decades? That's like a first pointer in your life. That's a first oof factor. You have to think about that first. Then we can talk about the other different negotiations we have on frameworks. So when we go for HTML itself, there's a lot of fine factors that we look for. As I said, being a freelance developer is not something that you learn today and then you apply it tomorrow and you can call yourself as, hey, I'm a freelance developer. It's not how that works. It takes it takes a lot of efforts and a lot of knowledge we need to have before you start something. Because freelance developers are usually standalone, and you guys probably don't have a team like who can segregate work between API works, HTML, I mean the front end or even back end, right? So you have to be a full stack in order to be a freelance. Full stack means that you have to know web designing, web development, and also backend like API gateways and all that. If you have I mean, not I mean the current era right now going to cloud platforms, which means that there are cloud platforms like Amazon AWS or Google Cloud Platform, which is called GCP. Okay, people are going serverless. No one wants server. Okay, so that's the thing we have to look for. You know, I mean, if you look at different companies, or even it can be any company, if you look outside, even let's say, for instance, let's take Api Education Group, Asia Pacific University. We no longer use on-prem servers. We use everything on cloud. Okay, which is we are currently a very big user of AWS itself. So that's the basic fundamentals of it. If you want to be a freelance developer, then you have to start from all that. Next slide is, yeah, this is mostly about me. I'm working as a web application developer at Asia Pacific University and a former president of AP Student Developer Society. And I have a lot of broad knowledge in cloud or DevOps. DevOps is a very big major key right now. Every single company you go, they look for DevOps solution architect. If you have AWS certificate with you, like a SA, solution architect, or cloud practitioner, CP, then it'll be added experience for you, and people who work with DevOps get good salary. So that's actually a major start point. Not everyone can be a freelance developer for the end of their life, because freelance developer is basically like commissions, right? So if you receive a project this week, then you might not receive a project for next 4 months. You have to know this standpoint. When you don't have something, then you can't. When you don't have something, let's say example, we can say that you have a project now, but you don't have a project in the future. You need to know how to sustain between this time period, between this project and that project. You need to have money. That's what is called sustainability in programming, or even as a freelance developer. Everyone does that. It's just they don't tell it. Okay, so the first thing here is how did I start? So in my personal experience, that is okay. I started from Minecraft. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but I started as a PHP developer at first, because when I was 12, I used to program on an iPad, with a few things cracked inside of it because I didn't pay for it. So started as a programmer from iPad because I didn't have access to a computer at the time. Then I started as a PHP developer. PHP is really broad. That is actually one of my best expertise language here, because I use PHP every single day, and I have made nearly 30 plus projects with PHP itself that are actually production, and some of them are actually open source that can be used in the community. So how did I start? I started from PHP, yes, from ground up. I did not touch web development. I only touched web development right in the middle. Okay, I mean, I kind of start in a wrong way, but then it's something that you can bring it to the end. Right now I'm actually an expert in a few different languages. I even got a certificate and a lot of things. So that's how you start. You have to have one pinpoint. One step is a major step in life, right, as they say. So you have to do that. Every single step you take as a programmer, you will learn new tech stacks. When you learn new tech stack, your mind becomes broader. When you become broader, you can think. Okay, when you think, you can make new projects, and you can be innovative, because companies outside that, they want you to be innovative, and they don't want you to be like sitting down in a cubicle and then asking a manager like, yo, how do I do this? How do I do that? No. When they hire you, they expect you to start from your own I mean, they will guide you a little bit about how they do their things, but then most of the time you have to do it yourself. So next slide is how long did this take? Okay, as I told you, it takes 5 years. My whole freelance programming career, we can say. But then starting from a language, okay, a language can be. I mean, let's take HTML for instance. HTML is actually a very, very big language, and it has so many things inside of it. HTML5 or the previous versions of it. There's a lot of breaking changes. And now I don't know if there's HTML6 going to come out or new versions going to come out. But then if it comes out, then it's going to be another end game, another battle going on between programmers on who can make websites faster. I mean, every single versions can make a website faster just because they improve the compilation time. Okay, so that's one thing that they have to take note of. But how long did this take? 5 years. Okay, when you learn a programming language, it can take years to be master in it. Okay, and if you are a freelance developer, then you have so many things on your plate. You have to learn about API, you have to learn about backhand, you have to learn about Python or PHP, or then you have to learn about web stacks. It can be either HTML or it can be either AngularJS, which is Ionic framework. Then we have others, Nuxt.js, we have React.js, we have Vue.js, all these kind of different things. They are cool at their own place, but then you have to know how to integrate them, or else it will be catastrophic when it goes to a production unit. Because security is one of the key concerns right now, because there are overwhelming hackers out there in the world. Okay, so you have to take care of all that, because compromising your user data or customer data is actually not really good. And if you will, you can be sued for that because it's a private detail. Okay, so the next one is, what should I know? Okay, so there are a lot of things. There are different parts here. If you're a web developer, you have to know about web stacks, before you touch anything about backend, which is API, Python, and all that. Okay, but if you're a backend developer, you have to know a lot of things about API. Have you guys heard about Restful API? Okay, what is Restful API? Restful API is like, you send a GET request, POST request, put request, or delete request to an endpoint. The endpoint should be able to serve you. And if there are no CPU bandwidth, or capacity, or there's no threads in the Python backend or even any backend, then it has to spawn its own threads. That is called as multi-threading. Okay, multi-threading is actually a thing in a lot of different languages. So you have to know all this kind of riffraffs going on between Python and also the API itself, because when you deploy it in the cloud, you deploy it once, and then you'll be like, no, I think AWS can handle it. But then the most part is you and your code. Okay, AWS just serves it for you. It doesn't maintain the code for you, or it doesn't code it for you. Okay, so that's something that you have to take in mind. But then what should I start? Where should I start, or what should I know? I would say start from web development, HTML, the very basic of programming. Start from there, go to CSS, then go to JavaScript, not frameworks, okay? Vanilla JavaScript, and then you can make your way into PHP. Okay, PHP can be quite messy when you start with, but then you should be able to get the main phase of it, because it is kind of a great language. Actually, there's actually a new version coming out, PHP 8, which fixes so many different things, and it compiles way faster than any language. Okay, so that's the thing you have to take in mind. And if you see a lot of different companies, example like Magic, which is by MCMC and is in Cyberjaya, right? So they use something called Laravel framework for their whole platform. Okay, so how did they do it? And they serve nearly so many thousands of people, all web developers, all students, but schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and all that. How did they do it? It is made by a very good framework called Laravel framework. Okay, it's made using PHP, and Laravel framework has been here for years. And every year it has been beating every single frameworks we have in the listing, which is like Ruby on Rails, ROR. ROR has been a very good framework, right? It's been known by everyone. But now Laravel has beaten it. Then comes Flask. Flask is basically like API end of it. So if you use the API, then you can do it. Or you can use Django. With the Django, you can like have a web stack and all that. So it's like a CMS. You can make a CMS with it, but it's a Python based. Next is, when should I start? So that's a great question. When should I start? The first thing you have to start with is you have to know when is your turning point in life. Okay, so if you are below 18 years old, okay, below 18 years old, or even you can say you are 13 or 14 for watching this. If you're 13 or 14, you should start now. Of course, you have to give a little bit priority to your studies, but it's not wrong to start now when you know that, when I go to university, I want to learn computer science. Just to be frank, not all universities teach every single thing you have to know to survive in the wild, which means in the public, right? So that's one thing you have to consider, because most of the thing in life is learning by yourself, and universities only give you fundamentals of it. They don't touch the things that is enough or that is needed for you to go to the next level of your life, which is basically working. So that is the most thing I see from students right now, even in the university or even people I meet, right? They are failing to do that because they should know when to start. They cannot usually depend on a university. University does their part as a fundamental, but then other than that, it's all about self-learning. Okay, when you learn by yourself, you are the best because you know what is it. Okay, that is the basic idea of it. And then if you look at a normal job scope. When you look, I mean, if you have LinkedIn, you can look at LinkedIn jobs on what they actually look for. You will have so many things like they want hybrid frameworks, okay, either Flutter to make the mobile application, okay, or different other things, okay. And there are very less companies that ask you for C++ or C sharp. Why? Because it's not needed and it's very slow, okay. Having being as a company, okay, you need to know all these kind of things, okay, which makes your which adds experience or which gives you the most out of your customers and your platforms, okay. If you do have, if you have that all in your mind, then you should be able to go further into your step, and also you can mesmerize, or you can even inspire your boss, or even it can be your colleagues, because all these kind of the different there are small bits and parts. I know there are overwhelming frameworks out there, and you can be kind of confused on which one to take. But then you have to, I mean, there are a lot of videos on Google or YouTube, okay. You have to know all these kind of things, on when to start, on how to start, on which one to put your legs in. Because if you put a leg on a wrong thing, and then you also learn that fully, and then in the end you cannot apply it to anywhere, then there's no point in it, okay. It's all about added experience and gives values to your life. Because as a freelance developer, everything has to give a value into your life, because it is money, it is about your money, okay. It's about your food, so you have to know about all that. So when should I start? Start now. It's not too late. Okay. You can be any age, but then preferably if you're 13, if you're 12, between 15, then you can start now. But if you're more than that, it's fine. You can still start now. Okay. But you have to go twice the pace, because you might be stepping out of the university very fast or soon. So yeah, you need to have all that in your mind, or all that skills. Then you should be able to sustain in the industry. So that's basically it. So okay, so I'll give you guys a little bit insights on a few different things as working as a company, working in a company and working with a company. Okay, so working with a company is basically most like it's like a rattle, you go, it's like you chasing between with all these users. Let's say as a university, you chase all these tech platforms, all the tech stacks with your university students, because they pay thousands to get into university, and they do not want you to, they don't want, I mean, all the platforms to go down. Like example, like the e-learning, which is like the Moodle, LMS, okay. And then we have different kind of other applications, right, like a student portal and all that, okay. Of course, they do not want it to go down. That is called scalability. When your application, when a program does not scale, that is when you see a lot of downtime, okay. So that's one thing as a DevOps solution architect, as a DevOps engineer, you should know, okay. Scalability is one of the major core things that we actually look for, and every company strives to keep 99% of their reliability and the whole service to be online. So that is one of the key things that we have to look for. As another thing, as an industry, as a work, or as to working with the industry, is you need to know when is the turning point, and you have to know how creative or how innovative your idea is, that adds, I mean, at least a little bit value to your customers, okay. You can release any system you want, because it's on a, because you have a team. Like example, you have a team of web developers, you have a team of DevOps, you have a team of other operating systems, okay. Everyone can have that, but you have to know which one adds value, okay. And instead of you paying for your service that no one uses, why don't you make a service that everyone uses and make money out of that to pay for your service? That is something that everyone has to look for, and as a university or as any industry, that's what everyone looks for, okay. Because that is one of the key elements that moves your industry upwards, or even moving forward, because there's a lot of, you can say there's a lot of different talks between the management and between the employees and all that, right? Because some people want to reduce their costs, some people want to do other things, but then which one adds value? So I mean, what you do right now is, if you're working with a university, or you are in a university, you just ask the development team, like which one adds value, okay, which one adds value and which one gives sustainability in the future, okay. I mean, if you have a talk with your development team in a university or industry, they might be full of stress, because they do not know which one goes down at any time, and they have to be keeping an eye to maybe 24 hours on the services. When something goes down, then they have to fix it immediately or even a few hours later. Okay, so that is, I mean, downtime happens. It can happen on any single company, no matter how good programmers you have. But then coming back up from a downtime, that is one of the major key elements. Okay, it requires a skill. Okay, when you bring up a service that is down, you know, there is something. There's actually an accomplishment of 1,000 tickets. Okay, I mean, if you guys have a ticketing platform, you guys will know. When something is down, people will start spamming the ticketing systems and all that, right? So yeah, that's actually an accomplishment towards all those all the 1,000 upcoming tickets on our platform. So yes, so that's all about starting up working with the industry. As a company, okay. Since I also run a company, our company actually specializes on a lot of things. Okay, so it is mostly about industry 4.0 technology, where industrial automation comes in, industrial surveillance, and IoT solutions. Then we do have software developers, mobile apps, and web developments, and we have platform builds, media production, something going along the media line, which is something like we can say like astro broadcastings and all that. Then we have management, distribution of international dramas, movies, and entertainments. We do have trainings for different industries. It can be for universities, it can be for other corporate companies and all that, and broadcast platforms. Okay, we do serve a few different things like e-learning platforms that is under our hood, with a few partnerships with different companies and all that. So that's actually working as having a company and then also working for the company. Okay, so that's one of the key elements. If you work for a company, and as a developer, you tend to cut down costs. How to cut down costs? You make it yourself. Okay, you make it yourself, you cut down costs. So that is one of the added advantages, being a developer and also running a company or having a company. Okay, so that's one of the key elements that we have, in order to sustain. Okay, as a front-end developer or as a developer itself, or you can just say a freelance developer, you need to know a lot of different varieties. It is not always one, and you always keep on learning. Okay, it's never going to be, I mean, it's never an end game or never a full stop for learning itself when it comes to programming, but then you do learn a lot of things in a day. So let's say today you work on web development, and tomorrow you say, I want to sign up for this AWS free tier, and I want to learn more about AWS services. Go on, no problem, because those are free for a year, right? AWS free tier. Then you can learn about different things like AWS IoT platform or AWS Incognito if you want to have federation logins, or if you want to learn about AWS S3 buckets. If you want to learn about AWS Lambda, which is like a serverless platform which you can host your API. Or if you want to learn about EC2, if you want to go back to the old on-prem method, which is like having a bare metal server, you can go back to AWS EC2, which is actually a server. It's like a VPS. So that is basically about that. And then we can also look for Google Cloud platforms. And yeah, if you are cool enough, you can have a look at my GitHub. Okay, I do have a lot of things on my GitHub. So you can look at a lot of projects, example like LMS, CMS, and you can be anything. It can be mobile apps. Because right now the society is going for hybrid app. Hybrid app basically like if you have one code base, either it is Dart, which is Flutter, or either use Angular, which is Ionic. Okay, you can compile them to both iOS, Android, or even web natively. Okay, with nothing in middle. Okay, so that's one of the things that they want. So they don't need to pay for additional developers. Like Java developer, Swift developer. We don't need to pay for additional developer. Like one code base can be served for all these three platforms and can be shipped out entirely. Okay, and yeah, deploying to AWS itself is so easy. All you have to do is just sync it to your S3 bucket and set the bucket as hosting, and it's done. It's live. Okay, so that is all about AWS. That is all about as a DevOps or even as a web developer. Okay, so one of the golden opportunities or one of the golden rules here is never stop learning and also keep on doing what you love, because as a programmer you have to do all these things, because you can be bored at sometimes or can be entirely stressed out at a time, but then doing what you love to do is one of the added advantages of being a front end or even as a freelance developer, because you're not tied to a company. But if you're tied to a company, then you have your own tasks to finish up, right? With deadlines and all that. As a freelance developer, you go on your own phase, or yeah, and then you have your own deadlines. I mean, most of the deadlines are usually far apart because that's how it is. But then, yes, so that's how you be a freelance developer for the past. I mean, that's how I became a freelance developer for the past 5 years. And these are the basic methodologies that is applied behind of it, all the tips and tricks that is behind it. And other than that, there are a lot of things, as I said, to learn and to go on in life because it doesn't stop. So that is all about being a freelance developer. So if you guys have any questions, you guys can just raise it down in the chat.
Thank you, Raeveen, for that. So there is one question from Mr. Long Yap. As for freelancer, do you spend most time doing freelancing or do you spend more time with the client, finding the
Okay, so this is the question, yeah?
internet is
Okay, so as for
the internet ni
freelancer,
balik.
okay, as for freelancer, the first time, do you find a clients, do the clients find you, or do you have to find a client? So the first thing is, as you start as a freelancer, for the first time, you have to find your own clients because no one actually knows you unless they are on your social media platforms and they have been following you for the whole entire journey of being a freelancer. Okay, but at the first time, you have to find the clients yourself, and then when you already find a client and if you already serve them, then it's all about referral. When this client refers to another client, then you finish something for that client, and that client finds you another client, then you finish for them. So it's like a chain here. So when you start to hook up a chain here, and when you start to hook the chain to yourself, then the chain will go on, until you cut off all this kind of freelancing things. But then for starting for the first time, it can be quite hard because you have to actively find clients because most of them are tied to a corporate or something. They look for third-party vendors and all that. But then you have to starting as a freelance developer for first is going to be quite hard. You have to do a lot of things. We have a lot of freelancer.my, a website, something like that. Okay, you can check that out. There are a lot of different platforms as well that you can post your expertise and then they can hook you up with a client or even a project. So that is how it is. Then after you have found your first client or even maybe 2 3 clients by yourself, then it should be all automated, as we say.
Right. Thank you for that. There's another question. I have one question in terms of open source projects. How do you contribute to them? I haven't really researched about it before, but how does the entire system work?
Okay, thank you for the question. It's a very good question. So, yeah, in terms of open source projects, you can contribute to them. I mean, most if it's open source, then it's either on be on GitHub or even different platforms, right? Different code repositories. But then, first thing is you have to look for issues. So everyone can contribute to it, but then merging them into the main package or main source code is one of the main different keys here because the developers could be working for a different company out there and this package or this source code might be just made for their use case. You have to know that which one works at which case here because that is why we have issues tracking on either Bitbucket, GitHub or GitLab and all that, right? So in terms of contributing to them, all you have to do is you have to find them. First thing is you have to basically clone the repo. Okay, then you just add your different changes. Then make sure that doesn't break in with it. If something is working and then after your pull request or after your fix something breaks, then that is basically your fault, and they might not even merge it because they do actually usually test it before they merge because it's actually a very big thing. So in terms of open source project, how do I contribute to them? Just GitHub. just go and find the repos that you like. So if you're an app, if you are an app, if you're an APU, we have something called AppSpace. AppSpace is actually freelance. I mean, it's not freelance. It's open source, so you can actually contribute to that. All right.
All right. Are there any other questions? If there's any question, you guys can just put it in the chat box. We'll just wait a bit until the questions. There, if anyone want to ask.
Okay, sure.
I don't think there's any more questions for now. So yeah, I think that's all for today. And but if there's any question, feel free to shoot in the chat box. Yeah. So I think there's no more questions. So I hope that answers you guys' questions, and I hope you guys can benefit a lot from this talk. It's been really inspiring and really beneficial. So thank you so much, Mr. Raven, your for your talk today.
Yep.
So I hope everyone can benefit that. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you for everyone for joining us as well. I know it's been
All
really,
right. Thank you.
but thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. So, bye everyone.
Bye.